So yeah, I wanted to talk about Michigan. And the reason why I wanted to talk about Michigan in particular, obviously, is because Michigan is very much in the is in the public eye right now, right? So I um don't know what this is. Okay, so the thing about the Michigan primary right now is that um obviously you have a very progressive candidate uh, running as a Democrat, Democratic candidate right now against the Republican candidate who is, your kind of run of the mill um, MAGA, right? So it's been interesting so far because people are very much um people are very much against Abdul El-Sayed. He is, he's progressive, obviously. He is a capitalist. He is not a socialist, and yet people keep saying, "Oh, keep mentioning DSA, keep mentioning being a leftist, a socialist." He's not that. He is just a progressive figure um, uh, running on a what's the word right now? I'm sorry. I There was a tornado um tornado warning, so my mind is kind of flustered right now. But he's running a left populist campaign right now. And there's a lot of centrists who are still against him, and a lot of so-called consultants and commentators on Twitter who are just very much against Abdul Al Sayed for the most part because he is against APAC. He's against Israel as it exists now as an apartheid um, state, the very fascist state, right? He's against that. So people, who are in support of Israel and APAC are very much against Abdul El-Sayed. They very much want him to lose. They think because he's a leftist, he not sorry, not leftist. They think because he's a progressive candidate who's running on left populism, that automatically means he's going to lose. So this poll came out, mind you, a what? Oh, 2 weeks. I kept saying a week. I'm being silly on this. It was 2 weeks after the primary, um, and it was showing Abdul Al Sayed down by 4 points, as you see, right? This is Mike Rogers tweeting this. I there are there's more. Let's see, sorry, because I saw a lot of people tweeting about this. So if we go here, maybe I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why I was highlighting everything. So if we go here, you see that there are going to be a lot of people we're talking about this. So here it goes, right off the bat. They're calling Abdul Al Sayed a communist, right? They're God, I want the ones who were oh God, it's gotten really bad lately. Okay. It's gotten really bad. It's gotten really bad. There's not the ones that I was hoping to see. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what I was seeing. I was seeing people talking about how you know there's all these strong centrist candidates running across the country for Senate for the Democratic ticket, and they're ahead in their general election polling. This is why you have to go to the center. If you're not going to go to the center, you're going to lose to a Republican, right? And so I was seeing a lot of that. Now, of course, this polling came out. Wait, yeah, this. Sorry, I was thinking of a different date. This polling literally came out a week ago, and people aren't even like thinking like what is it that could sway voters, or not, I guess, yeah, voters, that could sway people to seemingly prefer Mike Rogers over Abdul El-Sayed. Well, here's the thing. Abdul just came out of a very contentious primary in which $60 million worth of ads attacking him uh, was uh, was the norm all the way up through the primary. And so there was a because of that, it's just a lot of negative press towards him. So that would you know ultimately influence everything before winning that primary and having every just about every prominent Democratic politician come and back him, to unify the party and really really get the support for him from the divided base at that time. And so you have all these people coming. It's like, see, we told you he can't do it because he's not going to get the black vote. Like, first of all, he actually got quite a bit of the black vote in Michigan. Haley Stevens underperformed the expectations that she was going to get all of the black vote. She definitely did not. She underperformed in that, but she overperformed in the rural areas because Michigan has an open primary, so anyone can vote on either ticket, right? Like literally, when I got my vote, my ballot, I could vote for the Democrats that I wanted, and I can also vote for the Republicans that I wanted if I wanted to do that. Obviously, I don't like Republican politicians, so I didn't do that. So Haley Stevens overperformed in those rural areas, underperformed with the black vote. And a lot of the black vote that she didn't get obviously went to Abdul El-Sayed. The black community is pretty much, cut and dry going to vote Democratic because it is a very loyal voting bloc. The problem is obviously that the black community, the black Americans, aren't at the forefront of anything until every election cycle, right? Especially 4 years. Um, but so yeah, so everyone's like, again, going back, everyone's like Abdul Sayed, he's going to be the one Democrat that loses, this midterm election, and we told you guys this would happen, yada yada yada. He's down 4 points in this poll, this Fox News poll, incredible poll, right? And so my argument was, again, 60 $60 million in attack ads against Abdul. Mike Rogers was laying very low because he didn't have a contested primary. He got Trump's backing early on. There was one other no, he I mean, he ran unopposed. That's right. I'm getting my things mixed up here. Mike Rogers ran unopposed. So he obviously, he won his primary. He was able to lay low, no attack ads against him. So people don't really know what he's about. People know who Mike Rogers is because Mike Rogers used to be in Congress. And people, though, probably forgot what he did in Congress. We're going to read a little bit about that, but I wanted to just bring this up because, again, this poll is a week after the primary where Abdul had to, It was had all those attack ads. Since then, though, he's been doing the media tour. He's been telling people what his policy ideas are and how he's going to push for those policies. Again, he's sticking to the message: money on the politics, money in your pockets, Medicare for all, right? Cut and dry. He's told you know he's given his position and how to get there, interview after interview after interview after interview. Mike Rogers has also been going on media tours, but he's going on media on the circle jerk route of media tours, where he goes on Fox News and Newsmax to do all these softball interviews where they just stroke his ego, they laugh, and just allow him to be xenophobic, Islamophobic, just a bigot in general. He's also, you know, he's doing nothing but calling Abdul a terrorist sympathizer, terrorist, whatever he's done both. Um, saying that Abdul El-Sayed is Hassan Piker. People don't even know who Hassan Piker is. I was literally talking to one of the older guys in my group today. It was like I asked him like straight up, "Do you know who Hassan Piker is?" Because we were talking about the Republican strategy for the midterms. Do you know who Hassan Piker is? He's flat out told me, "No, I have no idea who that is." And I said, "Exactly." So their midterm strategy is to literally um connect Abdul Al-Sayed to Hassan Piker. It's like they basically are the same person. Mike Rogers said that Abdul Al-Sayed, he said that Abdul was the one who said that America deserved 9/11, which clearly he didn't. That was a Hassan Piker quote talking about blowback. They always forget to mention this part. They always forget to mention that Donald Trump literally bragged that he now had the tallest tower like the day of the or the day after the attack. They forget that. They forget that someone like Bill Maher literally praised the fucking hijackers the day after it happened. It's insane. They all sit there and talk about Hassan Piker describing blowback as a radical thing. It doesn't matter. Mike Rogers is going on this media tour calling Abdul a terrorist and basically calling him Hassan Piker. There, he has not pushed any policy, and it's mind blowing, right? That is the Republican strategy. They have no policy, so they have to push culture wars. They have to call people communists. They have to call people terrorists. I mean, they've already called Crowley in Wisconsin a socialist. They've already done that. And so it doesn't matter if you are actually pushing for left populism or if you're trying to go to the center, they're going to call you a communist anyway. They're going to call you a terrorist sympathizer. So you might as well do the thing and actually lean to the left and actually push for bold policy so that when people see it in real time, like they're seeing it in New York, they won't ever want to vote for a fucking Republican again because Republicans are fucking psychopaths. Republican politicians specifically. I'm not talking about the voters. I don't blame voters at all. Voters are think they're voting for their best interest, but every time they vote for a Republican politician, it is against their interest. And Republican politicians are lying to them. Okay? Republican politicians are are psychopaths and basically honestly domestic terrorists because listen, they have done so much bad. They've taken away healthcare. They're actively destroying education. They've been doing it for 40 years. They sorry, I thought I heard something. They they constantly are attacking women's bodily autonomy. They are attacking trans people constantly. They are they're letting children go hungry. They're letting people, they're letting the homelessness crisis just get worse. They're destroying just every institution, right? Um, so they are anti they are the main antagonist to every American. All they think about is enriching themselves and enriching their rich friends, okay? But, anyways, going back to the topic at hand, so that polling came out, but then people were making a big fuss about that, right? And then another poll comes out. And I thought this was really interesting because this poll comes out showing Abdul ahead of Mike Rogers by 6 points rather than the 4 points down. Now, obviously, polling is not to be taken, polling is to be taken with a grain of salt. Okay. But my point was Mike Rogers was able to lie low. People don't really know about him. People don't really know about his past. People have collectively forgotten the last 25 years except for 9/11. Everyone remembers 9/11, but people somehow collectively have forgotten what happened after 9/11. Now, if you're like me, you were a young child when it happened. I was 5 or 6. I was, yeah, 5 or 6 when it happened. So I didn't really I know something bad happened, but I wasn't really fully aware of what was happening and what was taking shape. But upon learning it, you understand just how much we as a society lost after that tragedy, right? Um and we're gonna get into that because Mike Rogers has a role to play in that. But, anyways, people don't really know who Mike Rogers is and what he stood for, what he's done, right? So my theory is that as people really learn about who Mike Rogers is, and Abdul does a really good job at pointing out what Mike Rogers has done in the past, while also saying what he being Abdul wants to do to better the lives of people. It's really good. Abdul's really good at this. Okay, and so this poll came out showing Abdul up by 6 points. Now, obviously, again, take every poll with a grain of salt. This is still a toss up as it stands. Okay. And um, so this poll came out, and this is politics and poll tracker. I look at their stuff all the time. Um, they they had said something. They had said something where they were like, hey, if you average this out, it actually shows Abdul up, +1. When you average this poll with the Fox poll, um, it yeah, it balances out to Abdul El-Sayed +1. So I thought that was really interesting. But I have not watched. I've seen the clips of Mike Rogers going around um, calling Abdul El Sayed a communist and a terrorist. I have a um, I have a couple of interviews that I wanted to watch. Okay, and I wanted to see because my challenge for Mike Rogers is to actually push some policy. What kind of policies does Mike Rogers and other Republicans want to want to push for, other than taking away health care from people, right? Taking away the subsidies, taking away Medicare, Medicaid, taking away ACA subsidies um, from people, making it so that people are unable to have any type of health care whatsoever. Um, he did the classic line of they're gonna raise your taxes so that you get health care, and you don't want that. You don't want to pay higher taxes for health care, right? Well, it's like, okay, but like center the conversation around why Mike Rogers in and being a Republican is in support of cutting Medicaid, cutting Medicare, cutting the subsidies so that people can afford healthcare, under the ACA. Why are you for cutting that, letting them, out to dry, racking up medical debt? Why would you allow that, right? And so when it comes to like raising the taxes, for Medicare, right? First of all, we already pay into Medicare, but we don't receive those benefits until we are 65. They're trying to raise that age, as a matter of fact. So if we're already paying into it, if we paid a little bit more and we're guaranteed to be able to get health care without worrying about copays, without worrying about premiums, and being free of medical debt, you're actually saving more money. That's my point there. I wanted to watch a
Well, now at 5:30,
fucking
election day is
interview by
fast
this
approaching.
demon.
Just 4 days until your votes are counted in races that will affect your tax dollars and shape the November election. Thank you for staying with us for 7 News Detroit at 5. I'm Glenda Lewis.
And I'm Simon Shakette. I am closely watching that race for Michigan's vacant U.S. Senate seat. All week, I've been interviewing each of the candidates one-on-one. On the ballot for the Democratic primary, it's Congresswoman Haley Stevens facing Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Republican Mike Rogers is running unopposed in the primary. He's an Army veteran, former FBI agent, and a former congressman. Rogers says he's running to work with President Trump and to bring change to Washington. Well, tonight I'm sharing my interview with Rogers, talking about his campaign and his goals for our state. Excited to welcome candidate for
Why does
U.S.
this guy
Senate Mike
look so
Rogers,
awkward?
running as a
Sorry.
Republican. Thank you for coming to see us here at Broadcast House.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
Sitting down to discuss key issues facing our state, Mike Rogers tells me we face major challenges demanding a new approach.
30,000 lost manufacturing jobs. Our median wage has gone down. We've lost defense industrial base work.
When it comes to high prices and our economy,
Did he say so? When it comes to manufacturing jobs, obviously the big part of that is allowing companies to send to outsource jobs to other countries for cheaper labor, right? One thing you can do there is, first of all, don't allow companies to outsource for cheaper labor, but also if we center things around the working class, there would be no cheap labor because everyone would, you know, be able to collectively bargain for a living wage wherever it is that they live. Now, I'm sorry, that's a whole nother conversation. Let's keep going.
he says he can deliver more jobs and help lower our day-to-day cost of living. Rogers is also a former Chrysler factory worker.
Energy has to be cheaper. We see that every month in our utilities.
That's funny. Energy has to be cheaper. Well, tell us, Mike Rogers, are you going to, maybe I'll let him talk here. If you want energy to be cheaper, how do you make energy cheaper? Because I guarantee you that it is not drilling for more oil or digging for more coal. Because one, oil, as it stands right now, is extremely expensive because there's an illegal war going on that Donald Trump decided to wage at the behest of another country. That country being the fascist state of Israel, right? So, so Donald Trump wages this war. The Strait of Hormuz closes. The oil being an inelastic demand means that the prices for everyone goes up. Now, the strategic reserves of oil in this country are critically low. We've reached below 300 million barrels in the reserves, and we're still using it. Once it reaches less than 150 million barrels of oil, those salt caverns implode, right? So we have to keep up. We have to keep up that reserve. But currently, we're not doing it. Gas prices have gone back up. Have gone back up. They were down because Trump has been fondling the markets to keep them low. He does the thing where he says, "Oh, we're gonna blow up. We're gonna basically nuke Iran." He says that Friday. Sunday, he says, "No, we're having discussions right now. We're having discussions right now, and they're going beautifully. I love Arakshi. He's such a beautiful man." That kind of thing, right? Arakshi is not, I don't think, part of any talks. There's no talks happening right now, by the way. Um, Anyways, so yes, if you want to reduce the cost of energy, you also have to stop data centers because they use up a shit ton of energy. As far as I know, Mike Rogers is not against data centers because this is a man who will take any corporate money. He's he, he's taken millions from big pharma. Okay, just so you know, I believe he may have taken money from surveillance as surveillance companies as well. Maybe I don't quite know yet, so I'm not gonna put a definitive answer on that. But he's definitely taken a lot of corporate money, and he'll take more. He will sell you out. So I'm not. I guess we can find out where he stands on data centers, but I guarantee you, it's probably not gonna be anti data center, considering he is backed by Trump, who loves data centers. They use up shit ton of energy, but also we gotta convert to green energy. Green energy is will dramatically reduce uh the energy costs because it is it God, what's the word? Renewable energy is the way to go. That brings manufacturing jobs. But of course, because America just refuses to do this, we're losing out. China's doing all the renewable energy stuff, and they're giving it, they're selling it to other countries. It's stupid. We literally, the Republicans literally will make this country get in its own way because they refuse to actually move anything forward. They have to keep everything 3 steps behind.
And certainly when you fill up your gas tank, we need to unleash American energy on that.
Of course, he says we are going to need to unleash American energy. Now, mind you, this was this 2 weeks ago? Shoot, how long ago was this again? July 31st. Okay. 3 weeks ago. This was before the primary. This was before, the reserves have or started reaching critical levels, right? Re- Unleashing um this this energy at a time where an illegal war has brought up the prices of oil.
Problem.
He says his ability to work with the president is another major reason he can deliver results on a
His ability to work with the president. So let's talk about this briefly because I do have an article to read about it. Mike Rogers was anti-Trump back in the day, but of course, in 2024, he fell in line because anyone backed by Trump, anyone who has the Trump name behind them, is more likely to win an office, right? Because the base is going to support anyone that Trump says is the guy. So he actually ended up losing by 19,000 votes back in 2024 against Eliza Slotkin. Um, and so he's back again, endorsed by Trump. So he is going to be like every other Republican, continue to fall in line with Trump and vote for Trump pretty much all the way. for shit that absolutely is going to hurt every other American. Okay, it's like John Husted in Ohio. John Husted said he wasn't gonna cut Medicaid and Medicare, and what did he do? He voted for the big beautiful bill that did just that. That's all they do is fall in line and fuck everything up.
Education.
We are in trouble. We have now gone down to 45th. We have over 60% of fourth graders can't read.
Rogers comes.
So this is also a misconception. The not reading thing is a misconception because kids are still able to read. It's the comprehension behind it. But let me tell you this. So a lot of people will say that, hey, we need more funding for schools. Funding is a part of it. Funding is still a big part of it because with funding, you're able to get the better materials, you're able to get better teachers, you're able to get better facilities and better resources. Schools that have more funding have those things, right? But that's not all that goes into improving education. You also have to you gotta cut you have to cut class sizes. You have to smaller class sizes so a teacher can better work with the students on the individual level. If you have 30 something students crammed into a classroom, it's very hard for that teacher to give individuals the time that they need. You need to feed children. A hungry child cannot learn. To make sure that children are able to eat, breakfast and lunch. A lot of kids don't do that. We have a child hunger crisis in this country. You need funding to go for the education for the teachers. If you want good teachers, they need to be able to get a good education and they need to have good training. This goes into it. Then you have the resources, like up-to-date books. You have to have computers. You have to have transportation. Let me tell you, in Ohio, in Central Ohio specifically, they have made it so that private schools and charter schools actually get dibs on transportation. So what happens is public schools have to lend buses to those private and charter schools to bus the children to those schools. And if they don't, they receive a fine. So what happens is they make sure those kids get to their schools, but because of that, the kids who go to public school end up suffering because they lose out on busing. And so they end up having to, take the city bus or take an Uber to work. And because of that, you have kids who miss school. There's all these things that happen, and they happen because Republicans. So you have to understand, Republicans have been actively destroying the education system in this country for decades now. And it is hit this low because of them, and they are trying to make it go lower. They are literally trying to paywall education. Sorry, that was a big rant. This is a 3-4 minute
more
video.
choices, reading assessments in the third grade, and more.
And this is where I think the federal government can help the school system here make sure that before they show up in the fourth grade, they are ready to learn.
On healthcare, he believes our system can be improved, but does not support free healthcare for all.
If you think healthcare is expensive now, wait till it's free. What we need to
If you think healthcare is expensive now, wait for it. Wait till it's for free because you're going to pay more into Medicare. Who wants to pay more into Medicare? Why not just pay more into your copays and your premiums? That's what you should do like a real fucking American. That's right. You know what? We're going to make those premiums so fucking high, baby. You will never be able to see the inside of a hospital again because your hospital going to fucking close. That's what we're going to do. I hate this shit.
to do is start getting the artificial costs out of healthcare. The fact that the denial rate since the ACA went into effect went up, that's wrong.
AI and data centers. On that issue, what is your view?
So I think it has to be local control. You can't force these things down people's throat, number one. Number two, that you can't allow the community to bear the cost of the increased energy usage. Won't work.
He's also an advocate for using data center tax revenue to help pay down property taxes of those in the community. And
No, 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 no. See, that's what I'm saying. 1 year, at least a 1 year moratorium on data centers. At least a 1 year moratorium on data centers. I'm for banning them completely, because as it stands now, data centers are not going up for good use at all. At all. Abdul, he supports the moratorium on data centers.
on
Just
the
remember
war in
that.
Iran and Israel's war following October 7th, Rogers tells me
I believe that we should support the only democratically elected ally we have in the Middle East.
Israel is not a democratic state in the Middle East. It is an apartheid state. It has a two-tier citizenry where it is an ethno state. You cannot be democratic if you're an ethno state. That's just how it works. Okay, if it was a democratic state, then everyone would have equal representation. You wouldn't have a two-tiered citizenry. You wouldn't have settlers in the fucking West Bank doing pogroms openly and supported by the fucking government. You wouldn't have a genocide happening in Gaza. You wouldn't have ethnic cleansing happening in Lebanon. This is not a democratic state.
I want the Iran war over as quickly as possible. They can't control the Straits of Hormuz.
when it comes to tackling
The Strait of Hormuz doesn't have to be closed, by the way.
division, Rogers says he can work with anyone in Washington for the benefit of the people.
When I was in Congress, I was labeled as one of the most bipartisan members in Congress on hard issues.
A proud husband and father,
He to be fair, he was bipartisan. There was Democrats who wanted to push for those pain medications. There was Democrats who wanted pass legislation to allow for pain medications to be more readily available. That would lead to an opioid crisis. But this guy just so happened to get paid like $14 million by the pharmaceutical industry.
of 2 adult kids, Rogers sharing his son just graduated from the Naval Academy, and his daughter is pursuing a career in occupational therapy, working with children with autism.
We like to have good family time when we can get it.
Thank you so much. Mike Rogers, Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, visiting us here at
All right, so we're gonna go to the next video.
Broadcast House. One more
Sorry.
important note, although Mallory McMorrow has suspended her campaign, you will see her
So here, that's him on Detroit local news. Let's see what he's like on Newsmax, shall we?
We're feeling great. So this is different here. It's a change election. And we have parents that we've met. Matter of fact, we were just going door to door the other day, and a grandmother who was there saying her grandkids had to leave the state of Michigan in tears. In tears, she's telling this story. This is a change election. We are going to make sure that we turn all of that around. We've had 200,000 manufacturing jobs lost in the quarter century that Democrats have been in the United States Senate. We have higher auto insurance rates, higher utility rates in the Midwest. We've lost defense industrial base work. People are ready for a change. And so we're out talking to people about what issues that are important to them. And we've got solutions for them. And I tell you what, we're going to do exceptionally.
Tell me a fucking solution. Tell me a fucking solution right the fuck now, Mike Rogers. Tell me one solution. One fucking solution that you can tell us one fucking solution that would start to help alleviate people's troubles. Tell me one, because I swear to God, I have not heard one thing from him this entire election cycle. He probably won't say
Well, if
anything
they're
in
ready
this.
for change, they could either go change your way and do something different, which they haven't done in 25 years here in Michigan, right, for a Senate race, Republican, or they can go like really, really radical with El-Sayed.
Oh, don't see, Newsmax. I told you, it's a circle jerk. It's a circle fucking jerk, dude. He said, or they could go for a change. They could pick you, a Republican, or then go way left with a radical like Abdul El-Sayed.
Talk to me about him and the dangers that he and the socialists pose. I mean, this is not a Democratic candidate. You know,
The
people might say,
threat that the socialists pose. What's the threat? Giving people health care? Taking money out of politics? I mean, I guess that's a threat for Mike Rogers, the man who took millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry. Right?
yeah, I'm going to vote for the Democrat. You better know what he stands for.
He is
He's
too.
I'm sorry. They better know what he stands for. He's openly said it. Only all the time. Abdul has said it. He wants money out of politics, money in your pockets, Medicare for all. It's not that hard. He kept it simple for everybody, by the way. Obviously, there's other things. He wants the war with Iran to end. He wants he he's a progressive. Progressive. I don't understand what is so hard to understand about the word progressive. It means moving things forward.
Extreme and too radical for Michigan. You know, I
Too
put the
extreme.
uniform of the United States on as an officer in the United States Army to stand up for our nation when she needed it. I was an FBI agent, kicked in doors, arrested drug dealers and human traffickers. Lo and behold,
Are you calling him
standing in
a
a
drug
race
trafficker?
running against someone who believes America deserved 9/11. Somebody
That's just false. That's me. That's what I was saying. That is just false. Abdul has never said that. Never said that. So I don't understand. Is it because he has an Arabic name that you just like mixed him up with Hassan Piker? I mean, you're Islamophobic for sure. So maybe that's what it is.
that wants to allow
Abdul's fucking American, dog. Abdul was born in Michigan. Raised in Michigan, dog. What the fuck are we talking about? He was raised like 20 minutes away from where Haley Stevens grew up.
criminals and sexual offenders out of prison. This is
What? See, this is what I mean. This is what I mean about him doing this circle jerk media tour where he can go on there, say what he wants, and not have any pushback. He just said Abdul wants to release sexual predators into the streets. When has he ever fucking said he was a prison abolitionist, dog? When did he say that? He never said that. You just put those words out there. You put those words out there, Mike Rogers. You put those words out there when you have when the Republican president of this country right now is a fucking pedophile. Protecting other pedophiles. Protecting rapists. January Sixers, the blanket pardon that Donald Trump gave the J6ers, guess what? There's been like, is it 30 accounts of them or 30 individuals from the J6ers who have been arrested for pedophilia. This is the grand old pedophile party we're talking about, guys. So
beyond the pale.
also
And you know,
also Donald Trump famously has just pardoned many criminals, not just J6ers, many criminals, including a fucking drug trafficker, mind you.
we are here in Michigan. We're hardworking, middle-class families. We kiss our kids. We get them on the bus. We go to work, and we build some of the most amazing things in the world.
I'm sorry, run
right
that
here
back
in
for me. Run that
This
back.
is beyond the pale. And you know, we are here in Michigan. We're hardworking, middle-class families. We kiss our kids. We get them on the bus. We go to work, and we build some of the most amazing things in the world right here in Michigan.
Okay.
That's all at risk, all of it. Matter of fact, he wants to ban gas engines.
The Republican strategy is just openly lying about shit. Openly lying about shit. When has Abdul ever said he wanted to ban gas engines? What the fuck? If anything, yes, you can. I would say expand um, electric vehicles. Guess what? We can produce electric vehicles in Michigan. Did you think about that? Especially when the price of oil is so high. Just saying.
I don't know if anyone told him and showed him on a map. We build things in Michigan. A lot of it is about gas engines. It is really shocking to me.
So it just goes like this notion that nothing can ever change. Things have to stay exactly the same. It's so mind-boggling because we have countries. Okay, I'm just going to use China because these motherfuckers are always talking about China. They're always like, oh, China is, is beating us. China's doing this, China's doing that. Why? Because China, every fucking 5 years, China has a 5-year plan and they implement it every 5 fucking years because they are a transitional state and they are continuously progressing. Can we get just a little bit of that in this country?
That the Democrat Socialists of America have pulled.
Again, sorry, Abdul is not DSA. He is not DSA, but continue.
This party so far to the left. We have people flying in from New York and California and San Francisco, touting this new Democrat Socialist message. Guess what? I don't believe it's. People are going to look at crazy. They're going to look at common sense. I think they're going to go common sense all day long.
What's crazy? What's crazy? Allowing people to be saddled with debts by not passing something like Medicare for all, or passing Medicare for all, having Medicare for all pass, and having your medical debt wiped away for you. Which one's crazy? Which one is common sense? Because it seems crazier to have medical debt, pay high premiums, pay high copays. That seems crazy to me. Common sense to me is pass Medicare for all and do away with medical debt, premiums, and copays. That is absolutely common sense. Getting money out of politics, common sense. Having more money in my pocket, common sense. Progressing society so that everyone gets the benefit from it, that's common sense. Keeping things as they are, where the rich get richer and everyone else gets poorer, that seems like the crazy option to me.
Part, Mike, is in a poll, 75% of Democrats say that they would or could vote for a socialist candidate. I don't know if they actually know.
I wonder the fuck why. I wonder why. I can tell you, I was mentioning this earlier in my stream. I go out and I table. And a lot of liberals that I have talking to over the last few months have all expressed that they are interested in the DSA members who have been running and pushing progressive policy. They are interested in it. They like it. They love Mamdani. They love AOC. They love Bernie Sanders. Ask yourself why. Mike Rogers, what do you offer?
I just saw an interesting study. Most people associate social issues when you say socialism. And so what we're going to have to do is point out what they're talking about. They're structurally talking about changing the government in a way that you don't get it back. And so I think once people...
Well, here's the thing. The way that this government works, I mean, in the words of Republicans would be DEI, where every state gets 2 senators, regardless of the population, right? It's not actually representative. The Senate is quite unnecessary. It's not very representative of the people. Congress is the most representative that we can get out of the idea of a representative democracy. That's where that DSA idea comes from. But again, Abdul's not DSA. He's not DSA. You know what he is for? Abolishing the filibuster, because that's also undemocratic.
Understand his positions and how extreme he is. Remember, this is a guy that thinks that, we don't need police officers. We should defund them.
Never said that.
Prisons, we should let...
He never said we didn't need police officers. He has said defund in the past, but again, the idea of defunding police is not abolishing police. There are people that I want to see arrested. Donald Trump. I would love to see Donald Trump in handcuffs. I would love to see Stephen Miller in handcuffs. It needs to happen. Kristi Noem handcuffed. Tom Homan handcuffs. Every motherfucker in that administration handcuffs. Even the ones who left, handcuffs. I want to see it. Defund the police means that we shrink those bloated police budgets and put that money into other parts of the community that would help to reduce crime, whether it be social workers, whether it be funding education, whether it be programs to help make sure that people have what they need so they don't feel like they need to go out and, steal or do something dramatic so that they have what they access to what they need. So if you reduce that, you reduce crime. As it stands now, we have a militarized police, and that doesn't solve, that doesn't help reduce crime.
Offenders out of prison. This is a
Also
guy that
never
said
wanted that.
We deserved 9/11.
No.
That could not condemn the terrorist that loaded his car with explosives, drove it into a synagogue to blow up 140 children. He could not condemn. This guy is so extreme.
Dude, Abdul was analyzing the situation. The man who drove into that synagogue did it specifically because he viewed what happened to family members in Lebanon. He associated that with Judaism, which Israel says their war crimes are in the name of Judaism. So that man who was hurt wanted to go hurt the people who he thought were responsible for that hurt. Abdul was analyzing the situation. That leads to the point of maybe we should not conflate Israel with Judaism, because Israel's doing crazy shit, and it's putting a lot of Jewish people around the world in danger. Stop conflating the two. I can't get through this
We're
interview.
actually going to work to get some of these Democrats who love their party and understand the difference. We're going to talk to them. We're going to recruit them in.
Jewish voters who tend to always vote Democratic, they almost don't have a home right now. They are being...
Why? This is what I was just saying. When you conflate what Israel is doing with all Jewish people, it puts a target on their back, and it only gives more fuel for actual anti-Semites. Okay? Let's listen to what he has to say.
Attacked, and El-Sayed obviously is very anti-Israel. He's attacked Stevens for taking AIPAC money. What do you...
Jewish Americans are American. They are not Israeli. So So I understand that a lot of Jewish people, they grow up and they learn about Israel being like this safe haven for Jewish people, yada yada yada. It's clearly not the safest place for Jewish people. The safest place for Jewish people is anywhere basically outside of Israel. I mean, yeah, that's just that. But they're American first, and this idea that they have this undying loyalty to a foreign country is honestly anti-Semitic. That's what it is.
Say to Jewish Democrats
Abdul is not
or just
anti-Semitic.
Jewish voters in
Being
Michigan.
anti-Israel
So
is not being
I've had
anti-Semitic.
occasion
Being
to talk to many
anti-Semitic is
of them.
anti-Semitic.
And as I tell them, if you vote Republican just once, send a message. You can't allow this anti-Semitic, and it's even worse than that. This is just anti-Jew. You cannot let this catch fire.
Mike Rogers, what are you saying right now? What the fuck are you saying? Oh, my dude's brain dead. Oh my god. He said it's not anti-Semitic. It's actually worse than that. It's anti-Jewish. The fuck do you think what the fuck do you think it is to be anti-Semitic? What are we saying right now? What are we saying? You're calling Abdul a terrorist. You're calling him anti-Semitic. Yada yada yada. Come on, where's the policy, bro? Where's the policy,
As
bro?
a plank
Come on.
in a major party platform like this, and they're losing their party to this very extreme segment of America.
I should
And by
have
the way,
done this earlier,
it's a
by the way.
segment. It's maybe the biggest part of the Democrat Party today, but it isn't mainstream America. And this isn't talking to people who are still trying to figure out how their kids buy their first home, how they pay their utility bill, which, thanks to Democrats, are now the highest in the Midwest here in Michigan, and how to pay their auto.
Sorry, go back. Say that again.
America. And this isn't talking to people who are still trying to figure out how their kids buy their first home, how they pay their utility bill, which, thanks to Democrats, are now the highest in the Midwest here in Michigan, and how to pay their auto insurance bill, thanks to Democrats, highest in the nation right here. So
My dude is like, yeah, Democrats are the reason why you can't buy a house, you know. What exactly they did, I don't know, but private equity has nothing to do with it. Bailing out the big banks, which, had nothing to do with, like, so the big bank thing, I mean, happened under Republicans. The banks failing happened under Republicans, obviously, and then Obama made this stupid decision to bail them out instead of bailing out the homeowners. So millions of homeowners lost their homes. Private equity bought them up. Private equity is still buying up houses and just absolutely inflating the housing market. You can't buy a house because they get reappraised all the time. Private equity buys it up, rents it out, yada yada yada.
they're going through all those.
As for utility bills, I don't even know what he's talking about there. I mean, DTE, like, okay, so DTE, and so the big energy producers are DTE and consumers in Michigan. I can tell you that they both fucking suck. Okay, they raise their rates all the fucking time, especially after the power gets knocked out and it takes them a fucking week to get it back on. They will start raising rates, right? Abdul has literally said that he wants to stop them from being able to do that. Abdul has literally challenged DTE for raising rates as much as they fucking do. Okay? So this guy just going in and just saying that Democrats are the reason for all these rate hikes is not true. Now, what would be true is saying that Democrats have not stopped them from doing it. These are private companies and they're allowed to do that. I think having energy being in the hands of a private company is the worst idea this is the worst fucking idea, right? Because they're going to charge you as much as they possibly can without updating their infrastructure. That's how it goes. If you look at California, it was like 5 years ago when they had those wildfires. Literally started because electric company didn't want to update their infrastructure, and it sparked the fire. But anyways, he still hasn't proposed any policy.
Lead a movement. I'm just trying to let folks get into their first home. I think people are going to choose that.
How?
So,
How?
they typically go Democrat as well. UAW went with El-Sayed. How do you talk to union members, even if they don't endorse you officially, but how do you go get the union members?
I have a UAW for Rogers group that meets, and it's pretty eclectic, that group, very diverse. And you know what? I didn't realize this, but about a third, 30% or so, of delegates now to the UAW come from universities. They're professors or student graduates. They are heavily influencing the positions of the UAW. When that happened, when the UAW endorsed Abdul El-Sayed.
Bro, college graduates, yada yada, they're the ones who want to vote progressive. They indoctrinate everything, yada yada. We hear it all the time. Where's the fucking policy, bro?
Guess what? My phone started ringing off the hook. They're like, I'm not giving up my health care. I work too hard to get the best health care in the business. I'm not giving it up. And so we think this is going to work
Abdul
against
has an answer for that, yada yada.
Labor movement, and we're going to get folks who are coming over to say, hey, again, crazy versus common sense. I'm taking common sense all day long.
Yeah, because crazy will bring chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
Lastly,
Donald Trump and the Republicans are literally in charge, and they have brought chaos. The thing about right wing ideology, the fascist ideology, is that they play this card of bending reality, basically to their whim. So the Republicans have literally created this environment of chaos, but they are able to swing it so that it makes it look like they didn't clearly do it, but rather it was already like that, and that they are the only ones who can calm that chaos. And it's very it is a thing that all right wing authoritarians participate in.
if with Peter's retiring, if you flip this seat red.
When? I'm sorry, when?
Yes, when you flip this seat red, they're basically a
Circle
path
jerk.
for the Democrats
Told
to
you.
go to the Senate. So, I mean, this seat is critical for maybe the country.
Yeah, and we have felt that all along, and I think it's critical in a whole bunch of ways. Not only for the Senate, you have a movement in America that is as close to being anti-American as I have ever seen.
I should also put this
and
on.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
it's full of enthusiasm, youthful exuberance, as my dad would say about us five young boys, talking about things that I don't think have fully thought through. You're actually reducing my freedom. The government is going to be the largest expansion of the federal government in history. That's what they're talking about doing. And so we think that
Sorry,
it's
I
important.
can't. I need to go
Government
back.
is going to be the largest expansion of the.
It was so off.
And I think it's full of enthusiasm, youthful exuberance, as my dad would say about us five young boys, talking about things that I don't think have fully thought through. You're actually reducing my freedom. The government is going to be the largest expansion of the federal government in history. That's what they're talking about doing. And so,
Yes, bro. Yes, you have to understand. Listen, the not the green, the New Deal was such a resounding success that everyone was running on it up until it wasn't Nixon. Who was whatever Republican came? I think before Nixon, everyone was running on the New Deal for so long because it was so popular. I will say that yes, it was pretty exclusionary to Black Americans, but overall it was positive to the progress that America saw because of the progressive taxation, so things were able to get done. Okay, I mean, federal jobs allow would go to allow for the creation of a black middle class, essentially. Like it's that it yes, 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 this is important. The Trump administration came in as, doing the Project 25 point of drastically reducing the federal workforce. Okay, so millions of people lost their jobs because they wanted to push them into the private sector, which is, because it's the private sector, they can pay them less. Okay, you get to pay people less, you get more productivity, and you are able to make more money. Um, it's a whole nasty strategy of creating coercion into the worst jobs that people will take because they need money.
We think that it's important, not just because it takes the Senate, which I think is really, really critical, because you can stop the foolishness, but it's also, we need to drive a stake in the heart of this movement that really wants to dismantle America as we know it. And it's filled with hate. This anti-Semitic hate is no movement to build hope and prosperity.
You cannot say that, um, you know, be it the DSA, whatever left leaning group it is, you cannot say that they are hate filled when you are literally a Republican politician and all you run on is hate. You basically started off this interview by calling Abdul a terrorist. Okay? You've been calling him a terrorist. The Republican Party has demonized trans people. The Republican Party has absolutely done irreparable damage to the black communities since the beginning of this Trump term. Okay, you have the Republican Party has so much hate in their hearts. That's all they run on is hate. Notice how he didn't give a single policy point in this interview. The guy didn't even ask him a policy point. He just allowed him to spew nonsense the entire time. No pushback. Circle jerk. Um, anyways, I wanted to really introduce you to Mike Rogers here. This is by Slate. Jim Newell. It's from August 2026. Um, One imagines Mike Rogers has enjoyed a lovely Michigan summer. The GOP Senate candidate was uncontested in his primary for his second straight run after only narrowly losing to Senator Eliza Slotkin in 2024. Rogers watched from a distance as Democratic primary candidates Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens took hacksaws to each other under a national spotlight. The Republican has been little more than a hazy object on the horizon for Democrats, a reward for better or worse for having survived the hell on earth of the primary. So, who is Mike Rogers? First and foremost, he is not the chairman of the Armed Service Committee, that is Alabama Rep. Mike Rogers, nor is he former National Security Agency Director Mike Rogers. It's simply a popular name among bigwigs in the military intelligence community. Michigan Mike Rogers is a bit of a throwback to the pre-Trump GOP, a buttoned-up country club Republican from the George W. Bush era. A former FBI special agent, Rogers was elected to the House of Representatives in 2000. He spent his 7 terms voting for usual conservative economic policies, tax cuts, deregulation, while maintaining hawkish foreign policy views. He made his biggest mark as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee from 2011 to 2015 and was a strong supporter of post 9/11 surveillance programs. During the Edward Snowden leak in 2013, he was effectively the public face of the intelligence community defending against Snowden's revelations. He was, in short, the sort of member that House Republican leaders like to send as an ambassador to meet the press. He could show the public that the party hadn't been overtaken looking over President Barack Obama's birth certificate with magnifying glasses. In 2016, 2 years after Rogers retired from Congress, the party was overtaken by the single person who popularized looking over Obama's birth certificate with a magnifying glass. Rogers, who did private consulting and lobbying work, but stayed in the public eye as a CNN contributor, of course, was skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016, though offered his help to Trump after he won the election. After Trump tried to overturn the 2020 election, Rogers became more openly critical. In a January 5th, 2021 op ed, Rogers wrote that Trump sounded more gangster than presidential in trying to undo a free and fair election. Those efforts would become even more overly gangsterish the following day. Trump's time has passed, he told the Washington Post after the 2022 midterms. After Trump's litmus test over the 2020 election had cost the GOP opportunities across the map. But Trump recovered the GOP just as Rogers was eyeing a return to Congress with a 2024 Senate bid in Michigan. In order to do this, Rogers had to relocate back to Michigan from his new home in Florida. Suddenly, Rogers' tune began to change as he needed to win the Senate primary. Rogers endorsed Trump for president in 2024. You never know which mood you're going to catch Trump in, but in Rogers' case, Trump opted not to torture him over his history of negative comments. Trump had tarnished his brand in 2022 by endorsing numerous weak Senate candidates who lost their November races, and in 2024, he was more mercenary about picking the strongest general election candidates in the field. So Trump endorsed Rogers in turn, saying that he knows how to win. Rogers may have known how to win, but he didn't, losing to Slotkin by a mere 19,000 votes, while Trump carried Michigan in the presidential race. It was close enough that Rogers decided to give it another shot in 2026, and Trump's early endorsement of him cleared the primary field. In the interviews Rogers has given about his strategy for the fall, he has a curious theory of the moment. I think my fiance dropped her phone. He is portraying it as a change election, by which he means change away from the Democratic control of Michigan's state government and its 2 Senate seats. This seems like an audaciously difficult argument to make. Most Michiganders are okay with their governor and 2 Democratic senators, and the prevailing call for change in the national environment this year is for a greater check on Donald Trump. Like I said, people are very, very eager for real pushback against Trump in the Republican Party. The real Rogers strategy is presenting himself as a familiar, unfrightened figure while portraying El-Sayed as dangerous, both for his left-wing populism as well as his ethnicity. Again, that's what I'm saying. Just open bigotry is the strategy for the Republicans as a whole. Judging by early Republican messaging since El-Sayed's win, the only question is whether Republicans will label El-Sayed a terrorist sympathizer or just do away with the sympathizer part. The National Republican Senatorial Committee's press release following his primary victory referred to him by his full name, Abdurrahman Mohammed El-Sayed. The Senate Leadership Fund, the Super PAC, the Senate Leadership Fund, the super PAC closely tied to Senate Republican leaders, said in a statement Wednesday that El-Sayed's radical agenda to defund and disarm the police, abolish prisons, and unleash terror and violent criminals is a direct attack on Michigan families. This is not even a position that Abdul is running on. They're just using tweets that he put out back in like 2020 or some shit, okay? And I think that was like around the time that George Floyd was murdered by police in Minnesota. Was it Minnesota? I get my states mixed up. Rogers, meanwhile, said in a statement that I spent years hunting terrorists and bringing Osama bin Laden to justice. Never in a million years did I think I would be running against someone who believes America deserves 9/11. El-Sayed has not said this, although one of his supporters, Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, did say it in a 2019 live stream. Expect the GOP to treat El-Sayed and Piker as the same person for the duration of his campaign. They were just doing. We saw him do that in that video, right? In that interview. El-Sayed, meanwhile, has promised to crush Rogers as an empty corporate suit, not dissimilar to the way he treated Stevens' candidacy. He told reporters on primary day that he would beat Rogers by 7 points. When I interviewed El-Sayed for a feature earlier this month, I asked him what his major points of emphasis would be against him. The man's never seen a corporate dollar he didn't want to pocket, El-Sayed said. He voted I don't know how many times to raise prescription drug prices. Then he helped to architect the opioid crisis. Rogers was an advocate for greater access to pain meds while in Congress. Then he moved to Florida and made $14 million. That man's never added value in his life, so why did he make $14 million? I really want to know. He's going to spend a ton of money trying to label me every which thing, he added. And the reality of it is, say what you will about me, I'm not bought off, you are. It's a good line. Abdul is really good at this. So there was another one I wanted to read. So I'll come back to that. I wanted to do this one first. So this is Michigan Bridge, nonpartisan, nonprofit news source. Mike Rogers vows to fight drug war, but urged opioid access in Congress. This is from 2024. So in September 2003, second-term Michigan U.S. Rep. Mike Rogers held a press conference in Washington to promote a bill he'd introduced, the National Pain Care Policy Act. He said would address the largest significant health problem facing America. Sorry. It would be the beginning of decades of advocacy by the Livingston County politician to boost opioid prescriptions with a goal to extend accessibility of pain medications to more and more Americans suffering from chronic pain. Prescriptions soared during that decade, but so did addiction and deaths. As the nation tumbled into a crushing epidemic, it is still battling today. Rogers's home state wasn't spared, with 27,000 people dying from opioids since 2000. The equivalent of the city of Hamtramck becoming a cemetery. Since 2021, one Michigander has died every 4 hours from an opioid overdose. In recent months, now campaigning as a Republican nominee for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat, Rogers has talked about the opioid crisis and the newer synthetic opioid fentanyl surge, saying his background in the FBI makes him a good pick to fight the drug war. The drug war, famously huge disaster, was bad for everybody. This week, he criticized physicians for overprescribing the pills and a lack of enforcement by the federal government. Absent from his campaign, though, is acknowledgement of his record on opioid-related issues when he last served in Washington. A Bridge, Michigan investigation revealed that while in Congress from 2001 to 2015, Rogers was a leading advocate for greater access to pain medications, which are typically variations of opioids. He received hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from the same drug companies that now are paying billions of dollars in national opioid settlements for their roles in causing the epidemic. Oh, shit. My bad. Rogers was far from alone. There was a bipartisan, if minority, belief in Congress that doctors were underprescribing pain medications and other politicians receiving drug company contributions too. Yet Rogers is I can't speak right now, sorry, doing this too long. So support of the drug industry was notable enough that he is referenced in at least one book about the opioid crisis, as well as multiple newspaper retrospectives of the epidemic. Rogers acknowledged in 2006 that drug companies considered him a champion of their industry. Bridge on Monday asked the 61-year-old Rogers if he now wished he had taken a different approach to the opioid issue while in Congress. I understand that that question is couched in a way that makes it sound terrible, Rogers said during an online press conference hosted by his campaign. I just disagree with the premise of the question. Buddy, all you had to say was yes. All you had to fucking say was, yes, I feel bad about that shit, and I would take it back in a heartbeat. He didn't even say that. He's like, I don't like the premise of your question. That's insane, dude. Rogers recounted how his brother suffered from chronic pain far more than from more than 30 back surgeries, and pain medications were needed to make his life bearable until he died at age 60. Without that relief, the last 10 years of his life would have been, well, candidly, we wouldn't have had him for that last 10 years of his life. Rogers said, every single day he was in intense pain where it was disabling for him to work or to pick up his kids. What we were doing in Congress is making sure that true chronic pain sufferers had access to drugs that would at least give some relief and hopefully allow them to spend some time with their families. Rogers said, there are a whole bunch of chronic pain sufferers out there that were going to get whacked around because people weren't paying attention to their pain. So here's a chart of opioid deaths in Michigan have increased more than tenfold since 2000. Since 2021, a Michigander has died every 4 hours from an opioid overdose. Currently, it is at 2026 for 2003. What lessons can be learned from the action or inaction of Congress 20 years ago matters to the tens of thousands of Michigan families who have been torn apart by opioid addiction, and experts say Rogers, who wants to be Michigan's next U.S. Senator, could have done more in his role to temper the growing epidemic. Congress was asleep at the wheel, said Jonathan Stoltman, director of Michigan-based Opioid Policy Institute, which tracks opioid settlement fund spending. Mike Rogers contributed to the crisis. Opioid deaths skyrocket. Bridge published more than 36 articles this year chronicling the opioid epidemic and critical decisions Michigan leaders must make about how to use $1.6 billion in lawsuit settlement funds from pharmacies, manufacturers, and distributors deemed partly responsible for the crisis. Many of the people now in recovery who shared their stories with Bridge first became addicted through opioid prescriptions. For example, Jolene Fassett's descent into addiction began with an opioid prescription for pain given to her in 2004 when she was 18. It was the time when they were pushing them, she told Bridge in July. Opioid prescriptions skyrocketed in 2000s when drug companies made a concerted effort to make pain elimination a medical priority. By 2011, opioids were the most commonly prescribed drug in America, more than antibiotics and high cholesterol medications. Some of those prescriptions led to addictions. For example, 45% of those who use heroin began with prescription opioids, according to the American Medical Association. Remember when they used to say that weed was a gateway drug to like heroin and shit? It was pain medication that would come to be the biggest or the most influential gateway drug. During that decade, Rogers was one of Congress's leading advocates for increased access to pain care. In the examination of bill proposals, news releases, legislative updates, campaign finance records, and articles written at the time, Bridge found Rogers introduced the National Pain Care Policy Act in 2003 and again in 2005, and was co-sponsored of the same act in other years. Rogers's bill and those he co-sponsors included a range of mandates, from developing a pain care initiative for veterans to ensure Medicare and TRICARE, the health care plan for active duty military, covered pain meds. It also would permit the federal government to offer grants to educate doctors on pain and palliative care. The bills did not include penalties for overprescribing. Though it was early in the epidemic, addiction issues connected to new drugs like Oxycontin were no secret. The first law against opioid manufacturers was filed in 2000 in West Virginia, and the U.S. General Accounting Office released a report on Oxycontin abuse in 2003, the year Rogers introduced his first pain bill. According to an investigation by the Associated Press and Center of Public Integrity, Rogers' campaign and leadership accounts received at least $310,000 in contributions from groups tied to the pharmaceutical industry between 2006 and 2015. That's basically his entire time in Congress. Rogers explained the donations in 2016 by saying that I think they said, this guy is a champion. He's doing something we believe in, and we want to support a guy like that. He has never, ever taken accountability or felt bad for this. Rogers received $226,000 in donations from companies that are now paying Michigan and other states in settlements over their roles in the opioid crisis, including Johnson & Johnson, AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health, and McKesson. You can see the totals here and here, okay? He received $162,000 from 7 opioid distributors that supplied 83% of all prescription opioids in Michigan between 2006 and 2019, according to a Washington Post report. That's insane. I see there's also let's see, in 2015, the same year Rogers left Congress, Dingell's congressional seat was taken over by his wife Debbie Dingell, who has been outspoken in her efforts to strike a balance with opioid policymaking. Okay, because I saw, was it James Dingell or John Dingell? Yep. See, I told you it was a bipartisan thing, but he was a champion. Sorry, this goes on, and I'm kind of at my wit's end here. Not wit's end. I'm just tired. So, we'll probably stop there, but because that article went into him trying to swing it the other way. There is one more thing. I didn't get to it in this, but there's a clip of Mike Rogers. What is it? I may have butchered that spelling. It's fine. Can I find it? He was. Yeah, I'm not gonna find it. I don't think I should have looked for it earlier. Anyways, there was just Mike Rogers, in a hearing when he was in Congress, and he was talking to someone, and he was basically making a case for surveillance, saying that he didn't care about mass surveillance, and he wanted to basically push for it. So Mike Rogers, everything needs to be known about Mike Rogers, because I feel like collectively, as a society, we forget the crazy shit that people in in government have done and pushed for, especially when it comes to the Republicans. We just, because they're always doing some batshit crazy thing day after day after day, we forget these things. So I just kind of wanted to bring this to the forefront of my conversation with people when it comes to Mike Rogers. So anyways, that's going to be it from me, y'all. I'm going to bed. Good night.